focusing on the question, can we create our own happiness? And we'll be reading articles and watching a few videos. There's even a recommended movie that I would like you to watch. I was going to require it, but then I realized it's rated R, and there may be certain scenes or topics within that movie that could be upsetting or triggering or just objectionable to members of our class. So I'm not requiring it now. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But let's take a look at our weekly objectives. So this week, I want you to learn more about the basics of rhetorical analysis. We're going to be examining the rhetorical situation a little bit more with some of our skills readings. Um, and we'll be focusing on audience and why audience matters to us as writers and readers. We'll also be reflecting upon rhetoric in everyday communication, analyzing rhetorical effectiveness in a given text, and considering the effect of audience on purpose, genre, and context of a text. So that leads to our skills reading. These three readings are from a website that is called Writing Commons. It's essentially an open educational resource that's been written by writing instructors, writing teachers, writing scholars on the various things that we explore in the teaching of English composition. So the first one is about audience and audience awareness. It's not super long, lots of bullet points, numbers, and large print text. So it won't take too long to get through. But it's important to understand what we're talking about when we are saying that audience and awareness of one's audience is really important when it comes to a writing situation or a speaking situation, the rhetorical situation. Um, so, the other thing, of course, is purpose, the aim of our discourse, the intention. Why are we communicating in the way that we are, right? Or why are we composing? So, purpose, of course, is yet another very important aspect of this course, right? It's also known as the aim or the goal. Um, Sometimes thesis can be a synonym. So take a moment to look through this, look through the purpose, and then the last reading that I will have from that website is context. And remember that context is kind of all of these things that come into play when there is um, an opportunity for communication, right? The rhetorical situation, it's the context, all of these things that come into play that affect us as writers, speakers, or readers, as audience, the various constraints that are put into play. And of course, there's this word here, exigence, right? And exigence is that driving force, that real main motivation, not just purpose, but like this burning reason, the situation that prompts that need here, as they say, for communication, urging the speaker or writer to use discourse to respond to a particular matter or a particular issue, right? The thing that they need to address in the writing situation. So that's context. So take a moment to read through that as well. As far as content, we are again focusing on that question, can we create our own happiness? And so these articles are pulled from a variety of resources. Gretchen Rubin, um, her article is How to Be Happy 10 Extremely Practical Tips to Try Now. Um, from the Real Simple website, Rubin is somebody, she was a lawyer. She probably still has her law degree, right? But she practiced law for many years and then started focusing on this question of happiness. How can we create our own happiness? How can we be happy? What are the things that make us happy? And so she's actually best known for her book, The Happiness Project, which is an interesting read from a pop culture stance, right? So if you happen to see that, happen to come across it somewhere and you're curious about it, it's an interesting read. Very easy to read, very accessible. I'm not promoting it one way or the other, but just saying, it's something that might be of interest to some of you. The next one here is an article from my Best Self 101 called What is Savoring? This starts out with a video. The animation style might look a little bit familiar to those of you who know the show South Park. The animators for that show actually animated this short video, which is set to the words of philosopher Alan Watts. So Alan Watts was really big in the 1960s. He's an English kind of a pop philosopher, but his focus was really more on the Eastern philosophies of Buddhism, Taoism, and Hinduism, and he kind of brought that to Western people, right? Those of us who live in the United States, Canada, North America, and in Europe, to the West, quote unquote, to expose them more to these Eastern traditions, the philosophies of China, India, and various parts of Asia. So it's an interesting little video. I think it's only a couple of minutes long. So if you want to watch it, you can watch it. Watts is a really interesting person to read. And if you're interested in Eastern philosophies, that would definitely be something for you to keep your eye open for. But the rest of this article, it's not written by Alan Watts. Um, at least I don't think it is. No, it's not. It's not written by Watts. I don't know who the author is. Let's see. Oh, Jared Warren, PhD, and part of his team. But this is what is savoring. So here, the author talks about a variety of studies, talking about the idea behind savoring, how we can kind of be in the moment, kind of in that flow, enjoy the moment for what it is, and experience moment happiness within the moment, right? So along the lines of what we watched last week with the Matthew McConaughey speech that he gave and that video that was created based on some of his speech excerpts, I will be happy when blank, right? So we often set these goals. I'll be happy when I have a full time job, or I'll be happy once I graduate, or I'll be happy once I have a partner, so on and so forth, right? And it's always something like happiness is going to be out in the distance, kind of this unattainable thing. Um, or it's only attainable after we go through a series of steps, right? So this article pulls from a variety of researchers, you'll see that in the parenthetical resources or citations that they provide here. Leo Bomirsky is a very notable person who has made their life study of happiness. So these are all very interesting. So this read through this idea of the different types of savoring, um, and this video here is one that I've actually linked in our assignment. So if you want to watch it while you're within this website, that's fine. But it's also linked in the assignments for the week. So this will take a little bit longer to read through, but it's a very interesting reading about savoring and happiness in the moment. And then the last article is here's how money really can buy you happiness. So Rubin talks in her book, The Happiness Project, talks about how money can help us to quote unquote buy happiness. Not that you are purchasing happiness or that happiness only relies on material things, but that money can really help you gain some sense of satisfaction in your life, if that makes sense. So this article is a little bit related to what what Rubin puts forth in her book. So this is from Time Magazine, and it starts off, whoever said money can't buy happiness isn't spending it right. And that's apparently from a Lexus commercial. So take a few moments to read through this as well. Again, they cite several notable people in the article. And so it's very interesting, just this whole idea of how money can sometimes help our situation. And if you've ever had to go without money or struggle with your money, then you might be of the opinion that yes, if I have a little bit more money, I might actually be a little bit happier because it would allow me to do the things I want to do, right? Um, so I thought that was an interesting read as well. As I said before, the video Hardwiring Happiness, this is linked in the What is Savoring or embedded in the What is Savoring website, web page, but it's definitely one I recommend that you watch. It's roughly 14 minutes long. It's a TED Talk. And in here, Dr. Hansen talks a lot about neurobiology, right? And or neuropsychology and how we can actually have some way of creating our own happiness and kind of establishing new neural pathways in the brain, which I just think is a really fascinating thing. So I thought you would all be interested by this. Um, the recommended movie, I have provided links for several different outlets. I'm an Amazon user. I have Amazon Prime, so of course that was my first one. If you have Prime, that is, if you already pay for your membership on an annual basis, you can watch the movie without having to pay any more money. I'm not saying that you have to spend money and get an Amazon membership or anything like that. But if you or your family has that membership and you're interested in watching this movie, here's the link where you can find it on Amazon. Google Play, it would probably be, $2.99 or $3.99. Likewise with YouTube, Apple TV. There is this website called Plex that offers it for free, but you have to sit through ads, so that's really up to you. I'm sure there are other avenues and other streaming channels that you can find where you wouldn't have to pay for it. Again, I'm not requiring you to watch it, but I thought this was an enjoyable movie where somebody genuinely is thinking about the topic of happiness. The character Hector is a psychologist, so or a psychiatrist actually. He's a psychiatrist, and he goes on this quest for happiness, and he travels all around the world and does a variety of things, has a variety of experiences. Um, that said, giving you a heads up, right? There is this IMDb parents guide for the movie that I recommend that you go into before you decide whether or not you want to watch the movie. Um, it is rated R, and as I said before, it has some content that could affect viewers. So it's really good to know what you're getting into before you actually sit down and watch the movie, right? I wouldn't want you to spend $3 or $4 on a movie and then realize that it's offensive and have your money wasted. So that's why I'm giving you the heads up, and that's why it's only a recommended movie. I'm not requiring you to watch the movie. That said, in the assignments for this week, you'll see journal number 4, film response. Um, and I actually edited that. It should be thoughts on happiness to reflect that you don't have to watch the movie, right? If you watch the movie, you'll understand a little bit more how it relates. However, you don't necessarily have to watch the movie in order to answer the questions for this week's journal. So, the first question in the film, Hector's lesson 7 states, it's a mistake to think that happiness is the goal. And then I ask the question, do you think happiness is the goal, the destination, or is it the journey itself, right? So, of course, you can answer that question without having to look back at the movie for, to get the answer. Likewise, Hector's journey culminates in a meeting with a professor who researches happiness. Do you think it's a worthy subject for academic study? And do you think it's possible to scientifically quantify it? Both very interesting questions. I'm interested in what you think. Do you think that satisfaction equates to happiness? Again, we're trying to hone in on this definition of happiness and to really try to figure out what it is. What is happiness, right? And then the last question in the film, Hector the main character undergoes an experiment where portions of his brains are tracked while he remembers three different situations: one that makes him sad, one that makes him scared, and a moment where he was happy. And then it's interesting to see how the different parts of his brain light up on the computer screen for the researcher. So try this for yourself. And you don't have to write about all of these experiences if you don't want to, but at least think about them. Think about a moment that made you really sad. Think about a moment where you were genuinely scared. And then think of a moment when you were supremely happy, right? But I do want you to answer the question: what is special about the happy situation for you? Give you a moment to think about these things. Again, they don't necessarily pertain to the movie. However, if you watch the movie, maybe you can pull some things in from the movie if you want to. I know that you're all strapped for time. You're super busy. You may not be able to find, an hour and a half or 2 hours to sit down and focus on the movie for an assignment, right? That's not realistic. So that is journal number 4. Um, let's go back to the assignments here. And then week 4, reading questions. Of course, we'll be dealing with those 3 main content readings: how to be happy, 10 extremely practical tips to try now, what is savoring, and here's how money can really buy you happiness. Um, Again, they don't, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm not grading you on whether or not you fully understood the content. I just want to be sure that you're engaging with that content and, thinking about some of these questions that come to us. How can we create our own happiness, right? So that is it for this week. Hopefully it's not a lot. Again, be thinking about what you want to be doing for your rhetorical analysis project. That will be coming up in a couple of weeks, and it's really good for you to start thinking about um, what you want to do in that project. Okay? If you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me. I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye bye.